why it's really important to have a plan and understand what your goals are.
In fact, my camel out there is suffering right now with a broken back.
So I actually found Pepe when it was only a couple of hours old, and I'm like, oh, this is a funny meme.
Oh my god.
Yo! Who is this Degen?
The old man is swing trading over years at a time. And it's like, that's where the real money is made.
The answer is a permanent loss. With single-sided staking, you don't have to worry about impermanent loss.
If you're aware, if you're disciplined, you can hone that into further financial growth.
Financial freedom, to where you can actually live life and not have to be constantly living paycheck to paycheck. I mean, that's the ultimate goal, more or less, right?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and D-gentlemen of all ages. We are back for a very special edition of the special guest show on Wednesday night. Tonight we have Coach X. Coach, how you doing?
Doing well, doing great. That intro, I love it. The very last, yeah. Love it.
You can
guys.
thank Will for that one. That is his genius. Speaking to the devil, Mr. Will Stevenson, how you doing, my man?
Oh, I'm doing good. Just having some bitter drink. Life is good. P-Dye's ripping. Congratulations for the folks who bought the P-Dye low. I know that Richard Hart put out some updates recently for stable coins on PulseX. So I don't know if that's what caused our latest and greatest stable coin to do some fantastic price action. Reminder, guys, this isn't financial advice. Everything's a shit coin. Everything's a campfire story. Life is good. It's been raining like crazy down here in Texas, bro. And yesterday I whipped out the dirt bike and I was riding around the TV tower like site over here, and I was just fucking cruising and tearing up the dirt and going up like creeks and things, just exploring the woods. So that was super fun, and it was all in the rain, so it's been a glorious muddy day. And then not only that, but also we've been live in the Degen Roundtable video game section. Myself, Dace, Brasology, Moondog's friend David, and Kenturian have all been playing some Sea of Thieves. So if you guys are excited and stoked about wanting to play some video games with the Degen Roundtable crew, then hop on over into the Degen Roundtable Telegram, join the video game chat, and then look for updates there. I was literally just playing Sea of Thieves about 20 minutes ago, and I just got like, my ship just got sunk, and I was like, oh, well, this is a good time to quit and go ahead and join the boys for some streaming. So that's what's up with me. Life is fantastic. And yeah, Nate McGettit, bro, what's new and exciting with you, my friend? Oh, and I guess for the folks who haven't seen me before, hello, my name is Will Stevenson. I'm like, I'm one of the hosts here on the Degen Roundtable. I also do networking for the team, and I roll around, meet people, shake babies, kiss hands, all those things. And yeah, so that's who I am. That's what I do. Not really smart as far as like things go in ecosystems and stuff, but I'm just a guy who likes hanging out. So that's me. Speaking of hanging out, we're hanging out with Nate McGettit. What's up, bro? What's new and exciting with you?
Well, yeah, no, well, I was thinking about getting the game because, like, I was trying to stay away from games for the most part because, you know, I was like, maybe I need to learn this crypto thing a little bit more. So instead of like the game time, I'll do the learning time. But I don't know, man. It might be kind of fun to do Sea of Thieves. So yeah, possibly I might be buying that actually. Then I could join the crew. You should join me too, by the way.
So I bought an in-game galleon so we can have a crew up to 4 people playing that. It's just use in-game currency to buy it. But like I purchased a special one that allows me to like name it, so that way when people are looking at it from far off, they see Degen Roundtable captained by, and then it's got my gamer tag in there. But yeah, so we are doing we're doing networking and broadcasting even in video games, getting people on our side. But I highly recommend you get the game and join, bro.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, I guess for the people who don't know who I am Nate McGettit, the Ascending Man, with the DJ Roundtable. And I, for the most part, I kind of stay on chain with stuff, especially making money printers. That's kind of my main thing. You know, I'm a busy guy. I'm out working a lot. I mean, you can see my hair is still a bit wet because I just got home and took a shower again. So yeah, you know, for me, the most part, I'm just trying to be able to make passive money without having to sit there and stare at the screen all day long, trying to trade and do things like that. So, however, I will admit, like, Coach, your wheelhouse is definitely like going to liquidity pools and things like that. Like you're kind of a wizard, I would say, at that whole on-chain stuff there. So, and I've learned a lot from you. So I'm glad that you're here with us today. This is gonna be an absolutely fantastic conversation, and yeah, let's get into it.
Excellent. Alrighty, Will. Before we get into the meat of the stream tonight, we got a shout out to the people at home.
Yes. For the folks at home who don't know, we do chat shoutouts in the very beginning of the stream. So it's time for us to talk about you and who you are and shout out your little chats before we get cracking on today's topic of convo. So take it away, Z.
Will do. So, first Degen in the chat this evening. We got 54 Cent himself, aka Centurion 54X. He says, "Ahoy, Degens! Very fitting for the Sea of Thieves talk." So there you go. Oh, I think you mentioned that he was out there playing too. So shout out to everybody in the gaming channel playing together and having a good
Hell
time.
yeah.
Already up next, we have the #1 cheerleader in the entire crypto space. That is Tam Tam. She says, "What's up, fam? Good to see you. Welcome to the stream. As always, glad you're here." Up next, we got Joshua O'Neill. He says, "Degen Squad." There you go. Maybe that's the name of the crew, the Degen Squad. We have another one of our very own, Agent J of the Degen Roundtable. He says, "Put me in, coach." There you go. And last but not least, we have fellow Hexkin and good friend of the channel, Tin Top. He says, "What's up, Hexkins? Good to see you, brother. Glad to have you as always." All right. Well, I hope he's still there on the mic, but maybe not the camera. Oh, perfect. There we go.
Sorry, I was looking. I was looking to see if I retweeted, and I did. So I'm just double checking on that.
All good. Perfect. Yeah. And shout out to everybody over on X or Twitter, whatever you want to call it, Twix, to watching the stream over there. Glad to have you. But other than that, let's get into it. So, the man of the hour, Coach, who are you? What do you do?
He's asking you to
Hold on. Sorry. The little one started amping up. But who am I? Come back to that question for me, please.
Oh no, I know that one. I got a 5-year-old myself. Oh boy. Here we go.
Fair enough. Fair
All
enough.
right,
Fair
never
enough.
mind. I think he's good. My story, first kind of like buy of Bitcoin was back in 2018. Wait a second. I got kicked out of the car. But yeah, so basically, 2018, fell in love with, freedom, and then started working, or I was working at Costco. It's pretty loud right here. In Costco, it's run by like a communist country, so wanted to learn about money, wanted to learn about how money works. Kind of went down the rabbit holes about life, understanding what the Federal Reserve and all that kind of stuff, politics, and just going down the rabbit hole, and just found myself in 2021 being a part of. That was my first crypto project that I was a part of. I was the event coordinator. Of course, sometimes in life, projects never always succeed, but you actually learn lessons. You learn how to network. You learn how to start marketing campaigns. Know how to build out a project, like the Gray's currency for a beautiful example. But and then 2022, 2023 was a part of a couple other projects. One project was called Carbon 12. It was like a Christian-based crypto that they were trying to do, and kind of I was one of the advisors, and they listened and didn't listen to me, and they're not around today, so they didn't listen to me that well. And then I was a business developer for a project called Follow. It was supposed to be a Web 2, Web 3, kind of like an interface type of thing. And essentially, in 2023, no VCs were wanting to like invest any kind of money or capital. So, and then here on Pulse Chain, Sacrifice Your Pulse and Pulse X, and then ever since there, I was the number 3 researcher, researching into PDI and all the interconnections of MakerDAO and the Tornado Cash and all those kind of things. And it's kind of like today, or kind of starting yesterday, it was just like for all the people that were Like it's kind of funny because I've had death threats. I've had people calling me names. I've had all the 9 yards. Coach doesn't know anything what he's talking about, and then it's just like now it's just like I get to laugh at everybody's face. But yeah, that's kind of like where my back history. And then in regards to PTGC, people, I just kind of like to say I'm a part of the team. You can say that I'm the general or a soldier or a captain or a business dev or the marketing guy or just a person who knows how to properly run properly getting a community together and stuff like that. So, but that's kind of like my back history, my story.
Awesome.
I like it. So if you had to put a label on it, as far as being in the pulse chain community goes, where do you fall? More of influencer, project founder, builder?
I feel like I'm more of a interconnected twine of Degen slash, actually, okay, Degen's at the end. That would be, I would say business developer, builder, Degen, coach, mentor, uh, all the 9 yards type of thing. But like, just want to, I'm out here just trying to grow people as much as possible, and pulse chain is where it's at, and people just don't understand the potential and capabilities of what the future is going to be like uphold, even though I can just like kind of like sideways since like March 8th. So we've been going sideways or down since March 8th, and some people, but it's at the same time, it's like if you have the weak hands, you're not gonna succeed in life. It's just the same kind of thing. If you go to the gym only one day out of the week, you're not gonna get stronger. So, or you're not gonna be more healthy in the future. Because like if you just fumble your bags and just start eating junk food or something like that, or anything, it's like, well, what are you doing here? Get out of here. Drop your bags, and we'll pick them up, and then we'll go next thing to the future.
You know, personally, Coach, I think Degen is the best label that you have in there, and just on a personal level. But no, I'm really curious then, because like when you say we've been going sideways since March, right? Well, hasn't everything? I mean, even when you look at Bitcoin, which is done amazing or whatever, right? Bitcoin has basically been going sideways as well.
Yeah.
It's just one of those periods.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like sideways, meaning it's like the whole market in general, especially with Bitcoin and or Ethereum. Because I like on my streams, the only thing I look at, especially on my streams, I look at Ethereum first, and I don't even look at any charts on Pulse Chain. I go, all right, let's look at Ethereum. Let's see what Ethereum's doing. Now let's go over to Pulse Chain. Oh, look at that. It's doing basically the same kind of. Oh, it's called Hart's Law. Oh, what a concept! What a concept!
I know that you're a absolutely gigantic fan of Hart's Law. For people who don't really understand Hart's Law, do you actually want to kind of dive into that and maybe explain it a little bit?
Yeah, Hart's Law is basically when two tokens are connected to one another, they're going to potentially move up and down together in a collective unit. And of course, it's going to depend on the speculation, and of course, it's going to depend on what kind of liquidity you're getting or getting your liquidity from. Like if you're getting your liquidity from a meme coin, uh, what's to say that liquidity is going to go down and right forever? But like for instance, for a great example, PDI went on I think it went on 82% run today, and which means PTGC was sitting around 16.5 yesterday morning, and I think we just hit about 21 or 20.3 mil market cap. But that's from just like very little buys when it comes to like the market or the market buying in general. So I feel like that's a great example, and and like, what's this, like at the same time, so like we hit a $38 million market cap when Pulse Chain did its first all-time high on March 8th, and we did the same thing. And then as Pulse Chain went down and to the right, which went down 80%, PGC also went down 80%. But since there's the buy and burns and all those capabilities, uh, and the Dow just being as benevolent as possible and adding, I think I estimated and calculated about $120,000 to $145,000 worth of liquidity in these last 5 months. So it's kind of crazy when you actually think about it, and just the longevity of it. It's going to be really cool to watch when it comes to the Grace currency.
I dig it. So before we move too far away from the Hearth Law stuff, you mentioned Ethereum. So obviously Ethereum is one of the main coins. Well, Pulse Chain obviously copied or pretty much just did the airdrop of Ethereum. So everything that was on Ethereum is now on Pulse Chain. So therefore it makes sense that when a lot of the Ethereum assets move, we have similar movement or at least a correlation over on Pulse Chain. Do you think that Bitcoin has any correlation to the Pulse Chain market outside of just like the general Bitcoin kind of is just a flagship leading the way in the market?
Well, it's leading the way in the market, but of course, like if Bitcoin drops down 7%, we saw that on Friday, right? Saturday, dropped down, and the whole market was red. So of course, that correlation in regards to Bitcoin affects Pulse Chain, but there is a this is another thing that people really don't talk about, but since Richard Hart kind of shits on Bitcoin and he kind of praises Ethereum, saying, oh yeah, Ethereum is 100% better. You can write smart contracts and all that kind of stuff. Because I actually kind of believe so as well. But like in terms of that connected with Pulse Chain, there's $20 million of wrapped Ethereum correlated compared to about Bitcoin, or the wrapped Bitcoin was a lot smaller than that. So there's going to be a greater effect with Ethereum than Bitcoin. And I'd rather be tied to Ethereum, which has more potential of going up extras wise, comparable to Bitcoin, where Bitcoin is only going to go up like a 3x from here. So that's where like the thought behind that is as well.
Fair enough. Okay, so what's your take on Ethereum right now? What do you see as like the main market forces surrounding that token? Because obviously we just had the ETFs come out earlier this summer. We're starting to see the flows kind of starting to level out because Grayscale's been selling a lot, and then BlackRock has actually gotten to the point where they overcame the amount that Grayscale was selling. I think it was a week or two ago. So I'm curious to see what the market looks like. What's your take on Ethereum?
Well, I feel like they've been doing a couple of upgrades that I've been noticing and looking at, which are great. Gas fees are good, but like the broader market, when it comes to like the meme coin space, it's just, I feel like it just has a really hard time in times of sideways and down for anything to actually basically move up and to the right. But like, I know a couple of good communities out there that are building pretty cool aspects, and then it's just like it's just fun building. I just love the concept of building, because you're not building now for yourself, for your future. I don't know what you're doing.
Yeah, 100% agree with that. You really need to. That's kind of the point of like the whole staking ladders and everything with Hex, right? Was to build for the future and to build your own wealth for the future. And the thing that I think Richard Hart was looking at was more so not like, hey, get rich in a single cycle type of deal. I think he was more so looking at, hey, in like 15 years, cryptocurrencies are going to be a huge thing. So all I need to do is I need to create one of the best ones that people will use. and to have it survive. And I think that was kind of his main thing, and hence what I think he's still trying to do to this day with Pulse Chain. However, when it comes to Pulse Chain, I almost get the idea that maybe perhaps he's trying to escape the centralism that is going to be coming around. I mean, how long is it going to be until, you know, the governments of the world get to Vitalik, you know, and sort of lock him in his own little cage, sort of like what they're doing with Bitcoin as of currently, you know? And I think Richard Hart is kind of seeing that coming a bit. So he's like trying to make Pulse Chain like the the ship that is too fast that can escape the gigantic monolith that is the governments currently. With that being said, oh, you got something to say on that, Coach?
Yeah, it's just like, especially with things what's going on in the world right now, it's really the time to wake up to your financial future, because if you're sitting with dollars, you're incompetent of the reality scope of the printing of the money, the politicians, the corruption, the banking institutions, and how everything's set up to just harm society and yourself in your mental health and your physical health at the same time, because crypto really does give that financial stability and freedom for people around the world. And like, that's exactly what I kind of like represent as being a father for my children, is like not going to be putting him into this world of wokeness, you want to say, of just the same kind of garbage and propaganda that basically our parents and their parents before them got fed. Now that we have the capabilities of blockchain technology, social media, talking to one another, teaching one another, it's something that we always have to think about too when it comes to crypto.
That's fair. You mentioned something here and also something in your intro that I find kind of funny as just this thread that runs through a lot of the connections we have in the crypto world, which is that getting involved in cryptocurrency is one of the easiest or fastest ways to have a level up moment with financial literacy when it comes to like the macroeconomic level. What I mean by that is that traditionally people think about kind of like a two-factor scale. There's either stuff or there's money to buy the stuff. But once you involve crypto, you now have that third ruler to measure things against. So now you can actually be like, okay, the stuff isn't going up, the crypto's going up a little bit, but the dollar's going down. So you actually get that reference point as opposed to just doing something like currency exchanges. But even then, if you're just focusing on currency exchanges and just overall economics, it's kind of like, well, a lot of things are still measured in the US dollar. So the other currencies still kind of track along the dollar, but when you start to have something that's untethered, kind of like crypto, you really start to see that three body problem come to light. I just think it's funny how all of us in this space are just very familiar with like, yes, fiat currencies are terrible. We would like to escape them. This is the quickest way to do so.
Well, I mean, what's the word we always use? Dirty, dirty fiat, right?
Yeah. It's like we're also stuck in this world where you can't quite use the crypto. I mean, you can in El Salvador, and you can in some other places. Like I know over in Georgia, they're pretty big on Bitcoin, like the country of Georgia, not the state. But like there's places where you can't use cryptocurrency as quite the same like level of fungibility or like liquid style spending as you can like with cash dollars or anything. So like we're stuck with this, like we've got these big assets that you can't get rid of, you know, like houses, gold, stocks, bonds, all that other crap that increases in value greater than the speed that the dollar decreases. You've got your crypto assets, which both go up and go down like crazy fucking financial things. They do higher highs than the old stuff does, and they also do lower lows than your cash will devalue itself. But like you can't use it for spending or anything. So you have to transfer your crypto into like regular dollars via like offboarding at exchanges, going to Bitcoin ATMs, finding a country that will take your cryptocurrency as like an exchange medium, or like buying those like credit cards or debit cards or whatever, like on and off ramp thing. So it's still like this weird intermediary between like, you know, the old traditional and the powerful traditional financial assets that rule most of the world right now. And it's this at this strange point, and I'm excited to see when we get more adoption to use them as spending things or like easier on and off ramps for people to get into and to get out of cryptocurrency without having to go through the process of like KYC or go find a excuse me, I had to answer or turn off a phone call there. Um, where was I? Anyways, like it's a bright future, and I'm stoked to see it. That's all I got on that.
I agree. We really do need to break away. We're like us right now, and hopefully maybe there's one or two individuals that hasn't broken away from that mindset of the U.S. dollar being the only thing that is valuable in their life. It's gonna. That's what we're here for. Trying to wake up the masses, and just trying to just bring prosperity to ourselves and our families. So it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, Coach. Actually, I was really curious. So, I I think I know the answer to this one because you're clearly one of somebody like me who's all about like freedom and self sovereignty, right? Which is extremely important to me. It's extremely important to you. However, I gotta ask, how number one, how did you find Hex, and then like how did you become a Hexican overall?
Funny way. So I found Hex. Um, what's the story on Hex? I saw a video on Richard Hart, and then back then when I was back in the day when I didn't know anything about crypto, I used Coin Market Cap, and I was looking at the market cap of Hex, and it wasn't. It just stayed at 201, and I was kind of like looking into it. It's like, oh, what's this token? It's like more. I was more of a Degen back in the day, and then kind of like just um, had a bag, bought some. Was telling my friends and my buddies or that kind of said they knew about crypto. They're like, yeah, Richard Hart, that guy's a scammer, blah 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 blah, and I was just like, all right, well, I did all the research. It's like you just stake it and it's called a T-share for a reason. So objectively, like um, my first, I think my first buy was around like 3 cents on the way up. So of course I staked it for about 10 years and stuff like that. Uh, so I was like, but like at the same time, just listening to his videos there on out, just being like, oh yeah, this is kind of like a financial instrument that I want to start learning the ins and out, liquidity providing, passive income. Um, he says he doesn't want to. He says don't trade, but like I don't know. It's like kind of like my fun little drug that I like to um, take every once in a while. But then start learning about more and more about crypto or Ethereum, and then going down. He's like, I'm building Pulse Chain. It's a fork of Ethereum, which is a copy. And I was just like, and then that just kind of like where it's on the Pulse Chain and Pulse X kind of side of things. That's where it got me like just full throttle. It's just like, why would I go to any kind of other community where I'm already building relationship with all these people on spaces um, and I was going through a difficult time back then, and a lot of people had my back and really believed in me and really taught me the kind of like just the value of kind of like life and always going after it and getting the job done and never quitting and never fighting for what you believe in and always just taking care of um, myself and my family, my kids, my wife at all times, and making their my priorities always number one, and not really looking at myself and just taking the hardships and the ups and downs of kind of like life in general. And sometimes it gets to a point where it got to like it sucked and I wasn't feeling good about myself, but at the same time, it taught me a lot of who I am as a man and what I can do for myself, my wife, my children, and then as you can see with about like how many holders do we have with PGC? About 6,888 now, or something like that. Almost hitting 7,000. So it's just like I'm here to be like like for my family. I'm here to trying to teach as many people as possible, and like it's I don't know. Uh, I might save something for the end of this game, which is kind of, I don't know. It's kind of ironic, but at the same time, it's like maybe I'm chosen or something like that.
The chosen one. No, I respect that a lot. There's one thing that we've been kind of realizing with Pulse Chain, the community, even though we're down so much, right? It's like there's a lot of pain in the space, but there's also there's still a lot of hope. There's still a lot of people who are willing to help each other. You know, me and Jay kind of chopped it up last Sunday about the whole Kareem debacle that was happening there. And yeah, no, it's definitely a good place. And I'm glad to hear that, you know, this community, we're constantly helping each other, right? And you are just another example of the community trying to help everyone, you know, and had a positive result over it. And I think that's absolutely fantastic. Zenith, you got something?
No, nothing too crazy, although we are ready to bring on not one, but two, our second special guest of the evening. So before we do that, we are going to run through chat shoutouts real quick, cover everybody that snuck in here after we did the first one. And then after that, we're going to get our double feature going on. So Mrs. Producer, if you don't mind, the first person who snuck in after the bell, we got Moonmutt, said good to be here with the finest of Degens. Good to have you, sir. Up next, we got Farmer Brown, aka Farmer J, says shout out to all the Degens from Hex Tent City. That's right. If you need a plot in the Tent City, contact that man right there.
I've got 3 from him so far, and he keeps stepping on my land.
There you go. After that, we got Moonpilled Rational Optics saying nobody panic. You made it. Glad to have you, my guy. Always a pleasure. We have another long-time viewer, long-time friend of the channel as well. Hexkin Lost in Asia. He says, good morning, D-Gents. T-shares are on a discount. That they are. T-shares are... The price of the Hex is down, which means the price of T-shares is down. But always keep in mind, the number of Hex per T-share only ever goes up. So stay on top of that. Stay on top of those T-shares. And last but not least, we got Jacob Trevelyan. He says, sup, broskies? Good to see you, broski. How you doing? All right, that is all we have for chat shoutouts. Nate, why don't you go ahead and run the introduction for our double feature guest here?
Sure thing. Well, of course, you all are getting to know Coach over here. You know, I'm going to call you an influencer / Degen because I like Degen, right? But yeah, no, he's the dude that if you ever have any questions about PTCG, you definitely go to him. But there's one other guy. And this other guy, named The Grays 369. Yo, Gray, what's up? Now, Gray, correct me if I'm wrong, but you're actually the founder of PTCG, right?
Yes, I am one of the founders.
So, one question I have about the Grays that I really wanted to ask you was, what was one of the most challenging things about creating the Grays currency?
Working with devs is very, very difficult, I would say. By far, that was one of the things that I didn't realize, or I guess this is our devs in particular that we've done everything with, but they haven't been educated by RH. So a lot of the principles that they find important are actually a little bit different than the principles that we've been embedded with from the beginning. So then I have to go down the rabbit hole of why I want specific weird features that they've never heard of before. I'd say that's probably the most difficult part.
That's interesting. How did you end up getting into the crypto space then?
So I have a business in the real world, and the first 10 years, or let's say the first 6 years of the business, because I'm 10 years in now, I was really financially struggling, barely could make ends meet, was just building the business from the ground up, living inside the building, living inside the shop. And then finally it got to a point where I was actually making a decent amount of money off of the business. And I first started with investing with my bank, with like Chase Bank with the diversified bank account, and was getting beat up by not really making any APY on it because inflation prints against APY. So really, even if I made 10% in a year, if they print 10%, I really made nothing. So I started kind of looking at different avenues for investing, and I ran across crypto, and this is before COVID. So I remember getting the dip of COVID, but so sometime before COVID, and I started just messing with the standard tokens, Bitcoin, Ethereum. And how I got into DeFi was one of my close friends, also kind of business partner, his brother-in-law was a day one Hex person. So one day he came by the shop and was telling me how he doesn't work anymore because he's in Hex, and he has this staking ladder, and just he pretty much had started with $400 and turned it at that point to, I forget, but we know at one point it was worth quite a bit. And he pretty much just sent me down the rabbit hole of RH. And then I just started researching RH. And then I went down the DeFi rabbit hole of, until this point, all my funds were on Coinbase, just on my phone. So then I had to go and learn about self-custody and, hot wallets, MetaMask wallet, hardware wallet, and just go down that rabbit hole. Uniswap, just everything from there. And then from there, just kept studying RH and learning. And
I've got a quick question for you. You had mentioned earlier about sort of kind of like butting heads or like explaining to the devs some of the principles that you wanted to include in your little ecosystem. Do you mind going a little bit further into that and kind of explain it? Because I'm not sure. There's probably a whole bunch of folks at home who have never heard of the Grays currency or things that you guys offer other than just the PGTC. Because I know you've got other tokens in your ecosystem. Could you explain a little bit further what are some of the things that you had to like teach your devs to include into like the process or in the final product or something like that?
the biggest one was self-custody. They
Okay.
were so confused on why when people stake PTGC or UFO was a way bigger hurdle, but let's start with PTGC. They were so confused on why I wanted to keep everyone's tokens in their wallets when staking instead of just sending it to a smart contract. And then their answer was always like, this is what everyone does. This is how you do it. And then I'm just like, also everyone gets hacked. All these smart contracts get hacked. Like maybe not all of them, but let's say it's 20%, 50%, like even 5% is a bad percentage. So it doesn't really matter what it is. It's just the fact that you're giving up custody of your tokens to a random smart contract that even if it has audits, there's always ways people can get in. And why would you even want to play that game of what if? If your project is successful, most projects aren't, so I guess they never run into this problem. But my goal was to create successful projects with longevity and sustainability. So let's say these projects do become sustainable. Well, down the road, this smart contract could be holding hundreds of millions of dollars in it, and that's just like the best golden ticket to a scammer or hacker ever. You literally just put everyone's money behind one door, and if they get it, they get everyone's money. So
a big giant jackpot.
Oh yeah, it's the best. If you're a hacker, that's what you go for. Why would you go and try to hack thousands of people individually if you could just hack them all at once? Makes perfect sense. But so that was the hardest one that they just couldn't understand. With PTGC, it was very, very easy after I convinced them that this is like my mandatory thing that I wasn't veering from, because we were writing the code. So we could adjust the code of PTGC to fit our needs. But with UFO, we built UFO on top of the Pulse X DEX. So when you farm with UFO, you technically are receiving PLP tokens that have already been coded by RH's team or, by his devs. So we couldn't adjust the code of the PLP tokens, just the basic LP providing tokens, to make it to where it fits our needs. And this is why every farm sends these tokens to a smart contract to take away the custody from the people, so then they can't manipulate the system. And this is most tokens in general. That's what staking is you give up your custody, you earn additional APY. It shouldn't be that way. It should be, you should be able to keep custody, but there needs to be a checking process to make sure that you are always following the deal you made. And if you don't follow the deal you made, you get penalized ultimately. But the important thing is the tokens remain in your wallet. If you get hacked, that's really sad and I feel bad, but at least it was you getting hacked instead of something that's out of your control.
That's a good clarification. And I'm realizing also that there might be folks in the audience who we never really went over the 101. So can you give us a brief little elevator pitch of what is PTGC, what is UFO, and like what is just some of the the general tokens and workings of your guys' ecosystem? I forgot we had to do that part, and there might be some folks who've never heard of you guys before. So what would you say to them if you were trapped in an elevator and you had to give them the little explanation before you got to the 50th floor?
Hey, do you want me to go?
So,
you want me to go?
Yeah, you go. Go, please.
No, you go.
I want to hear the coach. I want to hear the coach elevator pitch.
Coach elevator pitch. All right, so basically, I actually had this elevator pitch at the barber shop today. I had a little bit more time to explain everything, but
hell yeah.
I basically said PTGC is like the big Eiffel Tower, and basically it had so many different other Am I by myself? Oh my gosh, I am.
Yeah, we made you center so you can focus.
Yeah, we got some technical difficulties going on with Zenith's cam right now, so we're just gonna kind of pop things around.
Yes,
so good. I was like, I wasn't used to. I'm always used to watch or looking at myself at 6:30 in the morning when the conversation. But anyways, I was just like, basically PTGC is like the Eiffel Tower. And basically what it's built on is bricks and steel with the strongest core tokens. And when I said strongest core tokens, these people don't really understand all that kind of lingo. So I was just like, just think about just steel beams, okay? And basically these steel beams kind of, as more and people come to the tower, it's getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And how to stabilize said tower as it's getting bigger and bigger and bigger. There are other kind of beams. It's not really beams. It's more like a river flow going to another kind of like business, an opportunity and stuff like that. And it's good businesses, not bad businesses. And as the waters circulate from up and down. It's not really, water's not the best thing, but I like correlating kind of like the thought process of everything between like kind of like rivers and banks, and then that kind of like X factor. So it's like, if you really think about that internally, like that's basically like my elevator pitch with a little brother that's actually bigger than him. That has that interconnected thing. So now it's like, and then we have my 4 other children, which is Burn, Liquid, 808 Energy, and kind of like some of the people kind of like neglect them, don't really like talking about them, but like I'm always trying to give them hugs and everything, and they actually help out the system more than people actually recognize and think. So but yeah, that would be like kind of like the elevator pitch with PGGC.
You know what that kind of sounded like to me, Coach?
What?
The Hanging Gardens. Because technically speaking, what you've got, just everything that you were saying there, I was like, wait a minute here. So it's like you have this one funnel where the money goes in, right? and the money goes in and becomes many different rivers. And the many different rivers, then you got certain beams and like towers that are continually building on themselves and going up, right? However, you can enable to stabilize them. You've got all these other like little coins. I think you said 808 burn, liquid, and
Energy.
Yep. And they're kind of
UFO.
like stabilizers, right? Yeah, UFO, right? They're stabilizers for all the flows of currency that is, you know, going through, right? And it's just always building up and getting higher. So that's, I don't know, that's what I was thinking about when you're talking about it.
The cool thing about the tax system, we don't take, or like none of the taxes go to the team or anything like that, or go into laundering money for freaking Ukraine or something like that, or just kidding. But like everything is meant to be benevolent and kind of just coinciding of like a great community coming together, and essentially like whenever there's an action, there's always going to be a reaction somewhere else in the liquidity pools and that kind of terminology. And at the same time, whenever there's an action by a seller, like a human or something like that, there's going to be a reaction by somebody else in the chat, or they're going to feel a certain way and all that kind of human interaction. And then if you see like a big buy in the chat, you know, it's like, and it's like, you know, that feeling. So it's a good feeling. 369. What do you got? Top that.
I'll give a little bit of a backstory of why PTGC and UFO. So I get to DeFi. I'm first introduced to Hex, and then I came to crypto to legitimately invest. I don't gamble at all. Like I've never even went to the casino and gambled at all in my life. But when I ended up in crypto, I thought I was coming here to invest, and all I found was just a bunch of gambling. Just a bunch of, I would say 99.9% of the stuff on here was just gambling, rug pulls, scams. So I gambled on a couple, didn't do that good, kind of felt weird about it. And I was like, you know, this isn't really for me. And I kept hunting and hunting and hunting for another real investment, like something I could feel comfortable putting the money I've worked hard for out in the real world and brought into crypto. I want a real investment, something that I can actually like mathematically think about and see the equation to keep pushing it upwards. And I just couldn't find it. So then from there, I got talking to a couple people, someone that helped connect me with my devs who works for a big cybersecurity company and stuff like that. But what I started doing is I started studying as many projects as I could that were somewhat successful. A lot of them, most of them failed, but I would look at what made them successful and what made them fail. And I would just go down the list, each one, and I'd say, okay, this is what I think they did good. This is what I think they did bad. And I started kind of putting all the pieces together, and not just me and the team, of what we thought would be the end all be all token. What we thought, if we could pull out all the issues in some things and bring in all the positives, what we could really end up with. And PTGC is ultimately, in my opinion, as close as I could come to that. I think it's pretty darn close to the end all be all token. I'm not perfect. I'm not saying it's perfect, but I do think I became very, very close with what PTGC is.
What were some of those features, if you don't mind, like going through some of the things that you liked that other coins were doing or that other ecosystems or systems were doing?
So Hex was one of the biggest ones that I studied easily.
Like the
staking, self-custody. The one thing I always didn't like about Hex was the inflation to it. But you want to be able to pay out APY. And I'm not saying that inflation's a bad thing, because then I have all the Hex people get mad at me. But I'm just saying, for me, I didn't want to have to cross the hurdle of future inflation coming out with the token that I was creating. I never wanted to have to fight that battle to having to keep onboarding and onboarding and onboarding to counteract the inflation. Because inflation is good for like transactional currencies, because you plan on always bringing in more users and you don't want price to run up too quick, and you want it to be good for transactionability. But I wasn't trying to create a transactional currency. I was trying to create a currency that goes up in price. And if you want a token to go up in price, you should want it to be deflationary, because scarcity brings value. So for one, that was Hex, is how can you provide APY with no inflation? Then you kind of cross the road of fee-based tokens, and that's what PTGC is. Not a lot of people like fee-based tokens, because once the music stops, everyone tries to grab a chair, and they usually always crumble. They fall forever. And this happened with SafeMoon. SafeMoon is one of the biggest reflection tokens. I don't know if you guys have heard about this. This is one I've studied very hard as well. But it was a reflection token on BNB. It actually onboarded tons of people to BNB. And I hope PTGC also onboards tons of people to Pulse Chain. But what happened is they're paying out reflections, and then eventually the music stopped. And then everyone started selling, and everyone that had big bags was getting reflections and then selling into the LP pools. None of all this movement, all this action, all this value that they had never went to supporting the underlying value of the protocol. It was just paying out early investors. So this was one thing I noticed, and I saw it led to their downfall. So we knew, okay, if we're paying APY off of reflections, we need to also make sure that there's an equivalent or more amount of PLS or value going back into the LP pools to support the protocol forever. So even if everyone sold every reflection that they ever got, there would always be more PLS going back into the liquidity pool to replace every profit ever taken. And we know not every reflection will ever be sold ever, but you want to take those precautionary matters just in case. And then that, so then SafeMoon was another one that I looked at, that I found that problem, and then I tried to come up with the solution, and that's obviously put into PTGC. Another one was Cult DAO. I saw Cult DAO explode overnight. That's technically why we have a DAO, and I love the fact that it was a decentralized way to happening around us. So crypto moves so fast. If you lock yourself into a smart contract and then things change, you can't adapt with those changes. But with a DAO, you can actually continue to adapt with any changes that are thrown at you, with it still being completely decentralized and in the community's hands. What I thought was the downfall of Cult is they took hundreds of thousands of dollars and invested it in other projects. I don't see why you would ever invest in other projects if you think you have the best project right there in front of you. So what we did is we took the DAO idea and made it to where every bit of the DAO actually invested in its own project via buy and burns and LP ads, making it so all that money is constantly staying in the system. Because if you look at the performance of every project they keep putting the money into, they fail. And this is crypto in general. 99% of stuff fails. Even if they tried to be a scam or not, they fail. So they're just gambling just like everyone else. So what we found is it's better to put the money in our system that we know and can trust and grow from that. And so that's, for example, another project. And for me, I like the DAO because let's say right now we're adding LP with, PDI or RH tickers like PHEX, Inc. It's at the very, very bottom. Let's say that was written in the code. We were just pairing every day with WPLS. But let's say a year from now, we're at the top of the bull market and the code just kept throwing that money into the WPLS. Well, then we would be investing the whole way down into the bear market. But with this DAO, we can actually cast votes as a community. And let's say we start adding LP with stable coins at the top to stabilize the price. And then we don't even need to burn it. And then at the bottom of the market, we can cash out all those stable coins, buy the dip, and then run fast into the next bull cycle. So, I think I tried to just look at every possible aspect that I ever could. And this is the biggest one, and this was kind of the home run that that really set this thing off. Is when we landed here on Pulse Chain, we noticed all this ARB activity, and I remember Coach got me into PDI, and I really don't gamble with random tokens at this point, but he's like, hey,
he really doesn't gamble.
yeah.
I tell him
He had to really talk me into it. He's like, hey, dude, this is a narrative. Like, you need to look at this. And I looked at him like, yeah, dude, you're probably right. That's a narrative. Like, I'll throw money at this. And we were watching it in the whole Atropa ecosystem. And I still remember everyone thought that the Atropa dev had these reserves of funds constantly protecting the price. And then I just tracked the money back because I'm like, okay, I'm just going to follow on the chain where this reserve is. I want to see this reserve. And I just saw it coming from all the other LP pools. And I'm like, he doesn't have a reserve. He just created a web that's protecting the price. When people sell down or buy up, it moves the funds to other pools. And I'm like, and these R-bots are making money off of this for free. And I'm like, oh, there you go. We can now create a system that's self-sustaining that will just, if you build the machine big enough, it will constantly take what the market does as it moves up and down. We can extract fees from the whole entire crypto market, not just Pulse Chain, because everything's connected in liquidity, and bring that value back to a singular token. And what that does is it creates a situation to where we actually don't need people to buy our token. And that's where every token fails, is when people stop buying and only sell, then the price goes down. I'm just going to throw this one out there. Hex, for an example, everyone's selling right now. There's not enough buy pressure. When we found out that we could do this, we created a scenario where the bots don't care where the price is at. They are going to buy no matter what. It can be at all-time highs. They're going to buy. It can be at all-time lows. They're going to buy. It's everywhere in between. And this was like, for me, this is where I'm like, that was the one problem that I still couldn't solve, that I still couldn't find the solution in any other token, is how do you make sure there's always going to be a buyer? And then the answer
That's where the
was,
buy and burn came in, right?
well, the buy and burn, yes, is constantly pushing the price up. But as far as like actual money moving, the answer was you become your own market maker. So we made our liquidity web big enough to where now we're our own market makers. So we get to make the market of our own protocol, and then we scrape the fees from it and bring it back to buy and burns, which pushes the price in an upwards trajectory.
So essentially, what you've
Say
done
that
is
one more time.
So we created a liquidity web, and no matter what the market does, it starts shifting. So today is a really good example. PDI went on a run. That sucked up our price of our token, and then all the R bots correct it, and then we make money off of that correction, and we bring that value back to the underlined asset, which is PTGC. Which, if we keep bringing the money back to the underlined asset, let's say via a buy and burn, the price keeps going up. The easiest example of really is, think about this. Imagine if Hex did everything it did, and there was just a 1% fee on Hex of a buy and burn on every single transaction, every single dollar that's ever moved through Hex. Where do you think the price would be? A damn lot higher.
My headset cut out at like the worst time there, so I missed like the last 30 seconds of what you had said. I apologize.
You sound like you're underwater, Will.
Ah, son of a bitch. Hang on. Oh shoot, it's probably taking. Probably take audio from the webcam. Stand by.
Yeah. So I guess I got a question then. So
keep doing conversation stuff and fixing audio.
So when I'm hearing you talking about like the liquidity web and all that, the idea is that it's hard for the price to go down because there's so much dilution, right? But doesn't that also work in the opposite direction, that it's hard to make it go up?
So the more liquidity you have, the harder it is going to be to push the price up, because you have to have more money to push into the liquidity pool to do more X's. And that's 100% true. And it honestly is harder to push up. But my thing about that is most tokens don't care about having a lot of liquidity because they want their project to run up 100x and then 2 people get out the top with all the money. So you have 98% of the people losing and 2% of the people winning. And that's just not what I'm about. That's not real crypto. That's not a real sustainable project. That's literally just a way to scam people out of their money in a non-rug pulley way. So if you actually put enough liquidity into a protocol, yeah, it is harder to pump the X's, but you're actually ensuring that there's enough money there for the whole ecosystem for when their time comes that they do need to take a little bit of profits or a lot of profits. Some people take a lot of profits and then they exit the system forever. It really doesn't matter. But a real crypto project, if you're running it up a bunch of X's and because there's lack of liquidity, not all those people are going to get those X's. Only a couple people get it. 99% of the people lose in that game.
Like, I'll give you an example of so we had somebody roughly about $40,000 to $50,000 or they just sold their PGC about a $7 to $8 million market cap, and it's basically it got sucked down, and then it just the bots just eats it right up and brings up the whole the sustainability type of aspect. And if you really think about that, that $50,000 back then is now roughly a little bit over $100,000 now. So thank you for joining the space adventures. But
time for launch, right? You know, one thing that this has been a misnomer, and I'm pretty sure you guys kind of pioneered this because I believe you're the first ones who really put all this together. But the entire idea has been to create something that has the bots buying and always pushing the price up, as well as a buy and burn that makes the tokens more rare. So obviously more rare means higher value, right? And so that's all upwards pressure automatically. But then with the dilution rate as well, when you like spread it out amongst the web, it's kind of like it's hard for somebody to take out a ton of money at one time and just tank the price down to zero like you would a Solana meme coin, right? But it can also be more difficult to put in a ton more money into one liquidity pool when the bots, just spread it all out to all the other pools, right? And I think a lot of people I've been noticing have been saying this is a bad thing. And I do think it does kind of dunk on the idea because this is something now that you guys have kind of pioneered this. You got the solid index that, they've been playing around with a lot of stuff, and a lot more people have been kind of trying to do the same sort of thing and following in the same path, and just overall creating a huge pulse chain web where everything is all connected, And there's been a lot of talk about, okay, well, even when Richard Hart dumps in $1.2 billion, it's not going to pump like it could if it was like just in a couple of pools, like it originally started off with. However, I believe that this is the best way to go because what we're looking for is sustainability as a chain overall, right? And your project is technically the proof of that because it's doing exactly as intended, which is it's always slowly going up. The only difference when you look at the price chart and it's like, whoa, it was really high, now it's really low, and maybe there's even some lower lows, but when you look into it, it's because there's a lot of people selling a lot, But if you were to just like say you got 5 people and they're always throwing $100 in weekly, right? If you had that going on, what you would see technically is a very it would be like this. There'd be a slow rise over and over and over like this. It would just slowly go up, and it's always going to be going up. And so technically speaking, it's a store of value at that point. Because instead of you having to do things like literally create a money printer and then just print billions and billions of dollars, you let the machine just do the thing and you just keep investing more money into it and it will always rise. Now, I guess the idea of like, oh, just invest more money, it'll always rise. Sure. But at the same time, if somebody comes in, a big whale comes in, this is the important part, with a ton of money, it doesn't shoot up as much, but it also doesn't sink as much. So again, you have that value being stored.
Yeah, and like let me speak a little bit about like what you're saying, like about it's not going to go up as much as possible. 369 mute. But basically, internally, that's kind of like a incorrect type of thinking and process. So, not really incorrect, but it's just because of how Pulse Chain is created and built and everything with Pulse and PulseX and Inc and P Hex and the E Hex. Those are like the five pillars. They're going to move up and down together. If anybody's doing any kind of TA on like, oh, I think PulseX going to go down here, and it says something else about P Hex going like doing something else, it's like, no, they're going to be correlating with one another in some kind of ratio, shape, or form. So if Pulse, so like for example, Pulse went up 5x to its all-time high back in March 8th. PulseX did the same thing, did a 5x. Inc actually did a 10x. P Hex did a 5 or 10x, 5x.
The charts were very similar. If you look at them, it's like you look at one chart, you're seeing all the charts.
Yeah, exactly. But so like with that thought process in mind, and then we were connected to Teddy Bear, which did over a 800x, and PDI did over 5,555x. But we weren't at the bottom. But like I'm just giving you an example for the 5. So if those 3 things go up 5x in a collective mindset with the liquidity pools in mind, PTGC will go up with the rise of the ships, especially if those are thick liquidity pools. Of course, it's going to depend on the speculation aspect, but let's just say hypothetically there was no humans ever on this earth, and there was PTGC, and actually we're going to need humans because I do need to buy Pulse and PulseX and stuff like that. But let's just say hypothetically that no one was regarding PTGC at the period of time. Essentially, that 5x brings up PTGC, but there's 5x with Pulse. You add it to 5x with PulseX, which is 10, which you add the Inc did a 10x, but I'm just regarding the liquidity pools. So it's just like, it's just arms. So it's the same kind of concept with like kind of like Bitcoin. So Bitcoin, the only reason why Bitcoin's the price it is right now is because of its supply, speculation, and liquidity. Liquidity is the biggest focus. When was the best time? Okay, who do I sound like? When was the best time to buy Bitcoin? When Satoshi owned all the crypto? When was the best time to buy Bitcoin? Oh yeah, the slippage was like there was only one place and only one exchange to buy it. With the liquidity, slippage, yeah. So you get what I mean? So it's just like now that Bitcoin has hundreds of, or not hundreds, but like 50 to 75 to hundreds of layer ones wrapping their Bitcoin and spreading that over and rising up the floor of its ecosystem. And it's the same kind of thought process, or like with the centralized exchanges. And it's just like market makers. So when 369 was like talking about like we're our own market maker, essentially we have so many legs of volume. So whenever there's an action or reaction, I'm going to land a play at 369. Take it away. I think I answered it though.
Yeah. So, really at the end of the day, what I was getting at is the most important thing is longevity and sustainability. No one really even tries to solve this when they launch projects, and that was my main goal. And if you have longevity and sustainability and you build on something that's undervalued and you're undervalued, the X multiplier kicks into play. And what the X multiplier is you get to multiply the X's that you do times the X's of your connected assets like Pulse Chain. That's the easiest one. So what I like to say is, like right now, let's say in the next year, we can do a 10x on top of Pulse Chain. We've already done this in the past, so I don't see a reason why we can't do this in the future. It's a little bit harder because we're a little bigger, but I believe it's completely possible. So let's say we do a 10x on top of Pulse Chain. But what do you think Pulse Chain is going to do this bull run? 10x? So if you have a sustainable project with longevity, and it's not just some pump and dump bull crap that's gone in 2 weeks, you're actually able to multiply your X's on top of the blockchain times the blockchain. So if you do a 10x and the blockchain does a 10x, you just did 100x on a real project with real liquidity. So you don't have to go hunt down the next gamble meme coin that you never get. Like, if you know someone that's hit the 100x on a real token they could cash out on right then, let me know. But it really doesn't happen that often. But on Pulse Chain, there's actual real projects with real liquidity that's burnt, that 100x is easily possible. That's only a 10x and a 10x. Now, let's say if you believe Pulse Chain's going to do 100x. Well, then we would 1,000x. Let's say PTGC does more than a 10x on top of Pulse Chain. Let's say it does a 20x and Pulse Chain does 100x. Now PTGC holders just 2,000x from here. And these numbers are really realistic. I see everyone posting here on Twitter hoping for that 100x. The thing is, when you hold PTGC, you're putting the ball in your court. We're going to hit 100x a lot easier than anyone Pulse Chain is. Our whales hold. We don't have to wash out thousands and thousands and thousands of people that only are willing to hold for a 10x. We're playing the game with everyone else, but we're putting the ball in our court. Because I just hear everyone saying, like, when is RH going to pump our bags? When is RH going to pump our bags? But with PTGC, we're putting the ball in our court and we're pumping our own bags with just math and code, ultimately. And then our community is growing and growing and growing. And as we get stronger and stronger and stronger, we'll just do X's on top of Pulse Chain. And then whatever Pulse Chain does is just a multiplier to what we do. We don't need to rely on someone else. Like, we're all adults here. We shouldn't be relying on someone else. If he does do something, that's awesome. But there's plenty of X's we can do here on our own, building on top of this great decentralized blockchain that he delivered to us. If that's a 20x, 30x, 50x, and then he sends us a 2x, well, then we still got our 100x. You know, if we do the 50x from here on top of Pulse Chain, he sends us 10x, that's a 5,000x. And these are all possible numbers. Like, these aren't ridiculous, crazy things. That's the power of building at the bottom of Pulse Chain. And this doesn't apply if your project doesn't have longevity and sustainability, because what happens as soon as Pulse goes up, everyone sells your project in the Pulse because they just see the dollar signs, and then your project crumbles. But with something that actually has sustainability, this is what we're working with. And we've already seen this happen once. Last time Pulse Chain went up a 4x, PTGC went up 40x. Why? Because we did a 10x on top of Pulse Chain. All we needed was Pulse Chain to do the 4x. I think you're muted.
Yeah, somebody muted me. So what you're talking about right now is leverage on Pulse Chain, right? And so it's really interesting when you start kind of looking into like the whole idea of leverage. So when you're looking at the liquidity of certain coins and all that, which, you know, it has to do with all the pools. When you're talking about, you know, 10xing off of a 10x, well, now you're like, what, you're at a 100x, right? Versus Pulse that only does a 10x. It's actually quite easy to kind of see this in a visual manner. And if you could bring up my screen real quick, I actually want to show you guys this. So this right here, right, is the liquidity on Pulse Chain. And you have a couple of really, really big, that is the wrong one. There we go. So this is the really big one, right? You can see there's not so much liquidity over here. So as soon as money starts getting dumped into these, right? And look at this. This is only 26 million, right? And you start thinking to yourself, okay, so if we add all this up together, we're hitting like maybe like 180 million or whatever, right? Just with these main ones, and then maybe you could add in these ones as well. I think that like overall it's right around 180 million in liquidity. So as soon as you start dumping more money into these, that overflows directly into these ones just off the bat. That's kind of how you can imagine this. If you have water that's directly poured on top of this cup right here and this cup, that overflows into all these cups. Okay. And so then with that, we come over here. If it switches on me, can you guys see that? DeFi Llama?
Yeah, we see it.
Okay, cool. So when you're looking at this, right, what you're seeing here, this is the stable coins that are currently just sitting around on Pulse Chain, right? And we're sitting right around 65 million. All right, so then when you go ahead and you connect those two together, right? That means that, and here's the deal too. Okay, this is not RH's coins. All right, that's the big deal, because those are over on Ethereum right now, and there's a lot of other whales that have their stuff on Ethereum right now. They're kind of extracting stuff from Ethereum, and they're going to be bringing it over. That's the idea, right? But there's still about a third of the liquidity of Pulse Chain sitting in stable coins. A full third. So as soon as all those stable coins start dumping into those cups that I showed you, the bubbles, the amount that's going to be spilling over into you guys with a lot less liquidity is going to absolutely go wild, And so ultimately that's what you're talking about. So if you have like $10 million in liquidity on one coin and you put another 10 million in, you 2x that. But if you were to do, just 1 million, if you only have 100,000, you've essentially 100x that, right? It's because it's 10 for every 10 times of liquidity added is 100 times the price.
Kind of, in a way. Well, yes, because of kind of like the relationship between the liquidity pools. So like what you said is like in regards with PTGC, like there's only 2% of the coins in liquidity right now. So when it comes to like the supply shock measure, where Pulse and PulseX and Hex and Ink have really big, like if you think about 369, he's gonna appreciate me saying this, but if you have a big pond, and basically there's like lily pads and everything. If there's any kind of interaction with one of the lily pads, a bigger lily pad, it's going to kind of move the waters, and basically it's going to affect that smaller little lily pad a little bit more drastically when it comes to like the wave type of consensus, what you're describing. So it's basically exactly like that. I think he can explain it way better than, because he 360. Can you explain what your like references?
Yeah, I didn't verify that math, but this is how I think of it. Is PTGC is a tiny cup. It's just a cup. And Pulse Chain, or let's say PLS, is a pool. If you want to fill that pool up, you have to throw the hose in it for a whole day. And that water, you need to push that water in for a whole day. You need that much volume. Well, if we're just a cup, you could throw that hose in it for 1 second. That cup starts overfilling quick. So the smaller the token is, the easier it is to do X's, because you don't need that much volume to flow in it to have it overfilled really fast. The bigger it is, the more water you need to flow into it. But the interesting thing so when you build on top of a blockchain, so every time a dollar flows into this blockchain, let's say Pulse Chain goes up 2x. Since we're tied, or 8 days ago, we were 1-to-1 with Pulse Chain. Right now we're 1.8, but let's pretend we're 1-to-1. If Pulse Chain goes up 2x, we automatically go up 2x via Hart's law, because all liquidity pools are ratio based. If it's 1-to-1, let's say Pulse goes to a penny, we go to a penny if no one's trading. But the thing is, so we just got those X's for free just because we're paired via ratios and liquidity. But we know that everyone that comes into this blockchain does not just land on the gas token and stay there forever. Half of the money usually flows into the alt or more, because usually people go to the new blockchain to chase the alts. They don't go there for the gas token. So what happens is you get the X's from them entering into the blockchain, but if you're one of those projects that have sustainability and longevity, the money is then going to go flow to you. So you get to actually double dip on the X's that the blockchain got. And if some of that money can flow into your project, you then get X's there as well. And if your cup is small, it's very, very easy to get X's. You just need to make sure you're in the right cup. That's why I always say, like, you know, rising tide lifts all ships. But if you're in a ship with a hole of it, you ain't getting lifted. Your ship's going to the bottom of the ocean. So make sure you're in the right ship this bull run. If you're not in the right ship and it starts sinking, people start cutting throats to get onto the right ship. And that's when prices just start tanking like that.
You know, I think we've already seen a lot of that in the community itself, unfortunately, because there has been we have had a meme season, and there's the run up in the bull run to an eventual dump, but then the parabolic phase of the bull run always has kind of like a warm up season where something kind of takes off. It always has like its narrative of like, oh, people really like this. Well, in our case, it happened to be Solana memes. All right. That being said, there's like Base, Phantom, and Pulse Chain happen to be real fast L1s / L2s that people like playing with memes there as well. And Pulse Chain ended up with a lot of memes of people just trying to play that meme game, and ultimately ended up wrecking a lot of people, because that's what it does, unfortunately. And so a lot of people have been getting kind of desperate, I would say. And the thing that I've been trying to maintain for a while now is you need, as you say, and I'm going to go with your analogy of like the sinking ship, right? You need to figure out which ships are actually built for the rough, stormy waters of the bear market. And this is the reason why I personally really like PTCG. They're one of my top ones, which I have a list of them that, you know, I'm really heavily invested in. But the reason why you guys are up there is because of all of these different methods, and not only that, but pioneering these methods of trying to not only protect the price, but also to try and continually boost that price as well. I've been saying it to a lot of other outside of Pulse Chain people who don't really know or are a little bit scared of Pulse Chain because, you know, price down and Richard Hart is a scammer, things like that. But when I'm talking to them, I say, hey, there's technology over here that is not anywhere else. And this technology is basically what the Grace currency is. It's this type of liquidity web design, as well as like buy and burns. And just when you start throwing it all together, you know, like with the DAO that you were talking about, when you start throwing it all together like that, you get a very powerful city that I still like throwing out the word, and I know people don't like to hear it, but basically forever up, you know. But the forever up is slow. It's not bam, $2 billion was thrown in and here goes the green candles. That's not what the forever up means, you know. And people got to get out of that mindset, because that has been the only thing that crypto has actually been so far is smack. We got $1 billion, right? Exactly. So that's exactly why, you know, I really like the Grace currency. And I do think that as far as projects that more than likely are going to survive the next bear, I think it's definitely this project. However, with that being said, we do have something we got to do before we move on here. So I'll go ahead and pass it over to my main man up here. He's upstairs, by the way.
Right, it's me. All right, we are going to cover some chat shoutouts real quick, just because it's been a hot minute, and we want to see everybody that's snuck in the meantime. So, Mrs. Producer, if you do me a favor, let's get some people up on the screen. Coach, I think you have a fan out in the chat. That is the Ebonics lover. It says Coach X likes the chosen people. There you go. Up next, we have a good friend of ours, Pulse Jitsu with Fast Abdul. He says maths. I think he also had a comment about billions as well. So the numbers on the project seem very, very impressive. And then also another good friend of the channel, we got Corrupto Stylist. She said, good morning, D-Chats, because for her, it's definitely morning where she's at. But other than that, yeah, thanks for showing up. Glad to see everybody in here. So before we move, gentlemen, if you don't mind, I do have a quick kind of technical question. I promise it's not trying to be a gotcha. I'm just genuinely curious. I was doing a little homework on the Grays currency, and I know we were talking about some of the multiple functions that go on within the currency that's programmed into it. The biggest holder of this token is an address that looks like it's a dead wallet, but I don't know that for certain because it is, the address is like 0x0 and then the last numbers are 369. Am I onto something here or?
Yeah. Eric, am I able to pop up my screen?
Yeah, we can screen share for you.
All right. Let me do that.
Will, that is the best technical analysis I've ever seen in my life.
Centurion asked for some 2-minute TA, so this is what I got for you. There you go, Centurion. I gotta flip back to whatever day it is today. It's my calendar.
Yeah, just let me know when you're gonna pop that up.
Producer, if you don't mind.
So yeah, so this is a 369 dead wallet. As you can see, there is $13 billion in here.
Oh wow.
So we used to be right underneath Pulse Chain. And then until like, I don't know, Pikachu's and all these stuff that I don't even know. But as you can see, this is bought and burnt. So that's A from the DAO funds, where we just buy up the chart and then send it to the dead address, or it's just from the 0.5% of whenever there's an action, there's a reaction. So currently right now it's $2.2 million that is never going to sell PTGC. So, and yeah, so that is the 369 dead address, and it's kind of like allocated for Pulse Chain in general. And then another cool thing is like looking at the liquidity pools that are burnt. So like with PTGC and burn, it's $311,000 of burnt liquidity there. You can actually see the burnt liquidity that essentially two benevolent people burnt their pulse with PTGC alone, and then kind of like you can see liquid 808, liquid and 808, PTGC and Teddy Bear. That's worth $71,000 of liquidity there, and it's just like the list goes on and on. Like PDI, this is burnt liquidity that's never going to be touched. Access and PGC as well. That's 54 burnt liquidity, and then that's actually happened recently. So it's kind of cool. And then like there's like a community token called Alien with burnt liquidity that's going to be here forever on the blockchain in general. So, and you just see a lot of Alien liquidity pools burnt, and people say, "Oh, burning liquidity pools are bad for." This is like, but if it's actors doing it in benevolent ways and just like providing value for people instead of abstracting value from people, this kind of like gives that kind of like pretext of like a safe net type of system that basically it's just like a forever buy for the ecosystem. So,
hey, Coach, would you be willing to do some TA on PTGC with us?
Yeah. Let me.
I know on your show you love looking at it. So
thanks for going over the dead address stuff. It's cool to actually go through the receipts and see that, like, yes, the mechanism is sending it where we say it's sending it.
Yeah.
Yeah. One thing too is in that dead address, we I'm pretty sure we actually are the biggest if you consider bought and burnt tokens. So in crypto, a lot of people will like mint a big supply and then send a good portion of that supply to the debt address to make it look like it was bought and burnt, but it's really not bought and burnt. All you did was mint it and send it to the address, which actually creates no real value. But in our particular protocol, all of the value there has actually been bought and burnt. So what that means is literally we've bought in that PTGC out of the liquidity pools and sent it to the debt address, which is putting the PLS into the liquidity pools, taking out the PTGC, and then putting it in a wallet that can never sell on anyone again. And that's what it does with every single transaction within PTGC. So pretty much anyone that's above us, I'm pretty sure just did the mint and burn thing, because we used to be top of that list. And since we've been top of that list, no one's done anything that I could tell to beat us besides just mint large amounts and then send it to the debt address to mess with our ranking.
Yeah, it was all on purpose, right?
Oh, it is on purpose because it's free marketing.
Oh yeah, you got a point actually about that.
No,
I think about it.
Yeah, it's just free marketing.
Freaking Pikachu.
Well, it's good marketing, you know, to now everyone that goes to that debt address looks at the top burn projects and they think that that's been bought and burned, or they just like to see that it's been burnt. You know what I mean? But that doesn't mean that value has actually went into the PLS pools to take those tokens out. All that means is they minted a large supply, took a chunk of it, sent it to the debt address, and then created a value to the tokens. Big difference between bought and burnt and just burnt. Big difference.
It's definitely an interesting strategy. That's actually one that I haven't thought about yet. So, hey, you learn something new every day.
I am ready when you're telling me, because I can't see you guys right now.
You are good. We got you up here.
Okay. So everybody sees the screen and everything. So let's do some TA analysis. As you can see, it just mimics to exactly some kind of way to these trend lines. And the last time, so right here was when PDI went to $166 at this top in April 5th. And as you can see, PDI is ripping again. What a concept, Parts Law. But by looking at the last time, we were kind of like at the bottom right here. So let's just go back to the bottom right here. So this is kind of like Zen doesn't really like going all the way down here. I like doing my like percentages down there because I can like, if you really think about that, like PTGC's first run did very stupid numbers. But like looking at it in a form like here,
I like measuring from the first dip because that's really the location that everyone kind of had a fair chance of finding PTGC. Really, that first run up, whoever got in early was just luck of being in the right spot at the right time.
Yeah, well, yeah, 100%. But like as you can see, like when Pulse did a 5x from kind of like this position down here, it did 3,551%. Then of course with Pulse Chain moving down, we also did that 82% dip, and people are like in the chat like, oh, who's selling? Why cheats? It's just like, no, if you understand what in the terminology of like liquidity and you understand that game and that flow, is like if you're connected to your like Ethereum, like the same kind of thing with what's one of the, like Pepe. After Pepe made its big run, it fell over 59%. So I think it went to a $10 billion market cap. 10, and then it dropped to about $2 to $1 million. That's an 80% dip. But if you take in consideration looking at what we've done,
Coach, most of that is just due to pulse chain dropping 80%.
Oh yeah,
that's what a lot of people need to realize is we dropped 80% because of pulse chain bringing us down, not necessarily because of people selling PTGC down 80%. That's Hart's law works in both directions.
Yeah, it's a perfect example too. Like I said, if you look at Pulse X, Pulse, for the most part, Inc, and then also Hex, right? P Hex. You just have to look at one of those charts, and you already know what the other charts are looking like, and they go down and up together. And the same thing happens here. The only difference, of course, is that leverage area, though, because there's less liquidity in PTGC versus Pulse Chain, right? So that's the only reason for that.
The interesting thing about like leverage, though, is usually how leverage works is when it goes up more, and when it goes down more. But with PTGC, it actually works. It goes up more when PLS goes up, but it goes down less when PLS goes down. So it's not exactly leverage because of the sustainable tokenomics to PTGC itself. And it's actually like really weird because this doesn't happen in crypto. Usually a leverage play is a leverage play. It goes up more and it falls down harder. But we've actually created a system here that goes up more and goes down less. And you can see that in our chart versus PLS plain as day.
Yeah, then taking a look, hey, we hit all-time highs on UFO. This is the first time looking at the chart. Congrats, aliens! UFOs at all-time highs. But as you can see, it's just going down, or like we launched him back in April 29th, and since Pulse Chain's been going down, it's just going sideways. But in comparable to Pulse Chain, it's just like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 weeks in a row. Like I've never seen a project go up 9 weeks in a row. Actually, PTGC went up 9 weeks in a row. But like if you look at the total what's in liquidity, you can actually take a look right here of the liquidity factors, all the prices, but you also can see the volume. And like people like say like, oh, tax tokens need a new buyer, humans. It's like, no, we just proved it. This proves it. Whatever you're talking about is not true. It's like, how is that $120,000 of volume? So if you really think about that, just today alone, 120 times 0.202. So today alone, the Dow received $2,400 in Pulse. And then somebody's going to make a proposal saying buy burns or add more liquidity. But the best thing to do right now is add more liquidity to Pulse X and P Hex and E Hex and all that kind of stuff. But 120 times 120 times 0.005. Like PTGC bought and burnt itself $600 worth of buy and burns today, just from the volume. And then let me just add into what UFO actually brings to the table, because UFO buys and burns 1% of PTGC as well, and buys and burns 1% of itself. So, and also if you look at the liquidity factor or how much liquidity, tell me another project that has $2.2 million of liquidity when it's $3.7 million market cap. I've never heard of another project like that. But let's see. 113,000 times 0.01 equals UFO bought and burnt PG or $1,130 worth of PGC. So it's another metric that like wanted to showcase for you guys.
And that's happening, not that exact number, but that's happening every day. And as the liquidity pools grow, once RH tokens start going up again, let's say RH tokens go up 10x, well, now our liquidity is 10x more, and now the arbitrage bots need to move 10 times the amount of money. So instead of $1,000 a day in a buy and burn, we'll do $10,000 a day in a buy and burn.
I like that. That is amusing.
I like it indeed. It's hard to argue with the numbers when the numbers look like that. So I think it's a good chart. The part in particular that really impresses me is when you look at PTGC against Pulse, it is very much a chart that kind of just goes up and to the right. And the downsides aren't even that down, to be honest. So it appears that all the things you're talking about, all the mechanisms, they seem to be in place and they seem to be working the way that you claim they are. So I'm not a coder, so I can't open up the code and verify anything, but everything sounds good to me at this point. Other than that, I do want to get your gentlemen's take on not just this project, but kind of the state of the Pulse chain right now. I think that you talked a little bit earlier about how if the Pulse chain makes X's, then any of the projects that make X's are going to make X's on top of the base. So that makes sense. Where do you guys think that Pulse chain stands right now from just like the ecosystem standpoint and also the community standpoint? Like, are there any hurdles we have to clear? Any speed bumps? Any kind of thing? What do you see on the horizon?
Sen, you want to go? You go first.
I'd say the biggest hurdle for everyone in Pulse Chain is just everyone's tapped out as far as DCAing goes. We've been DCAing in for 2 years, or some people have been even going in since the top. But I know when Pulse Chain was supposedly supposed to come out a year before it did, people were buying tons of Hex at that time and being used as others exit liquidity, etc. So I just think a lot of the community is tapped out as far as funds go. And I think that's what's hard right now is the only way the chain goes up is fresh capital. We need to get money across the bridge. And right now, Hexicans, Pulsicans tapped out as far as money goes for the most part. And then it's hard to onboard people to this chain because it's down right now. It's hard to convince people that this is an awesome protocol, an awesome chain when Hex is down and Pulse Chain is down, because it just looks like we're wrong and delusional. It's just the honest truth, and I mean that in the least disrespectful way. But it's just really hard to. It's accurate. It's really hard to onboard. So it's really hard to get people to come over here. But I believe as soon as some green candles flicker on over here, it will be the easiest thing in the world. As soon as green comes, people will flood over here like it's the hottest new thing on the market. Because it is. The product's awesome. It's just the most decentralized blockchain, I believe, out of everything, which is just awesome for builders. It's awesome for users. It's a copy of ETH 2.0. Like, everyone's used to using this. It's just right now there's just a bad narrative. But at the end of the day, if there's money to be made over here, no one cares if they like RH or not. No one cares if Hex went down for 3 years straight. If there's money to be made, people will come. It'll be a gold rush.
That's fair. I want to circle back on one of the things that we talked about earlier a little bit as well, which is that a lot of people are kind of have that outcry right now, which is Richard Hart, please pump my bags. So if the people in the chain are running low on the DCA funds, or they're tapped out, as you said, then does it mean that Richard Hart kind of is the person that's going to be the one to jumpstart the system again? Or is there a way to inject the capital that you're talking about, even though everyone's tapped out, like you said?
Show me the money.
Yeah.
Personally, I think a protocol like PTGC, if it started doing a bunch of X's, I think that could attract people to the blockchain. UFO, if it started doing a bunch of X's, I think that could attract a bunch of people to the blockchain. Even you saw Atropa and PDI doing this as well. People will come to the blockchain even without the blockchain pumping, as long as there's good alt tokens on here that the community is getting behind. The problem is is it's just a big circle jerk of everyone passing the money to everyone because no one can get behind a couple projects and send them to high numbers. There's a new project getting launched once a week. There's a new person talking about it once a week. They pump it up to a 1 mil market cap and they start exiting on all their friends. And it's just a sad reality of, Hex has turned into that is it doesn't matter. They'll exit on you to grow their own bags. There's no integrity. There's no benevolence. So I think there's a couple projects out there that
sorry.
There's a couple projects out there that I think have strong communities built behind them. PDI, Atropa, I'm going to say PTGC. I believe some other ecosystems, Axis. I honestly believe SolidX will probably do good in the future too. I think we should take note of these projects and try to get behind some of these things. They're all different types of projects. It's not like we're not all oranges here. It's apples to oranges to bananas. So you can kind of see what you like as far as a project and you can go with there, but they exist here. I just think it's important we get behind these projects because if we do have any successful projects on this blockchain, people will run to this blockchain and it's going to be a lot easier to pump PTGC, for example, instead of Pulse Chain for 2 reasons. One, it's a smaller cup. And for 2, there wasn't thousands and thousands and thousands of people that sacrificed 3 years ago at the top wanting a 3x and going to cash out.
That's fair. This is probably a concept that Will and I are well familiar with, which we kind of imagine just like the total economic energy on a chain. It's kind of the law of thermodynamics thing, which is that energy cannot be created or destroyed. It only changes form. So I understand what you're talking about when it comes to if we just can get a bit of a concentration of that like economic energy into a few certain projects, then what it will do is it will actually start to produce those green candles. And I do agree with you that I think having a few projects that look like they're doing well, it can absolutely be something that attracts people. I feel like this is a conversation that we had on the channel a few months ago, which is that I think it was around the time when Gift Token was kind of popping off a bit. And it was also primarily around when like Solana really started the meme coin season, which was, it's not just that they had Dog with Hat or whatever the stupid big one was, but it's that a lot of other ones kept popping up and they just didn't stop. So for me, the question I keep asking myself is like, is it good that there is a consistent churn of projects that are effectively the meme coins, which can act as fodder for people to be attracted to the chain if the base token itself is not acting well? At the same time, though, the downside in my head is that I think it's possibly more shiny object syndrome, because we started the stream tonight with talking about how we're not trying to be gamblers, we're trying to be investors. And it seems that the marketing strategy is more towards trying to lure people in with gambling in hopes that there is investment opportunity on the back end. I'm just always just trying to double check myself and make sure that we're not making fool's gambles here on that proposition alone. What do you think?
My favorite thing about the snagging people with the gambling is when you can trick them into buying investments by getting them thinking that they're gambling. That's the whole goal, as far as I'm aware anyways, is to get people thinking like, oh, this is a gamble, and then it turns out they actually buy something that's an investment. That's my thoughts anyways. But I want to toss it over to our guests. What are your guys ideas on what Zenith was saying?
Well, I'll speak to that because I have a close home with my degens. So this is the thing about Pulse Chain that it has never been basically made before. Like with Pulse Chain, there's Pulse, there's PulseX, there's Hex, there's eHex, there's incentive, and that everybody who knows about it and who believes in those principles and those values of those tokens, they're going to be there. But Joe Smo on Solana, who's heard so many people saying like, "Oh, it's a scam." Blah, blah, blah. I don't even know Richard Hart. What Hart's law? What does that mean? I just want price to go up, and then it's like, those individuals are not going to come over here until there is just green candles. And, you know, this is like, if you look at the token holders from the time that like Teddy Bear was launched by the Tropa Dev to now, with even kind of like the relationship with like P-Hex, for instance. Do you see the number of people actually holding that or comparable from Hex to Teddy Bear? Teddy Bear blew them out of the water. Like, so like Teddy Bear probably got like 1,000 holders a month. P-Hex hasn't barely been getting any like more than that. So if you really think about that in a realistic standpoint, not emotional, you know, in crypto, we're not here to be emotional about things. And if you need a coach to talk or help you out with your emotions and trading, I am your guy. Yeah. Yeah, we need the Degen space. I don't really call it gambling. Or actually, it is gambling, but just don't be a stupid gambler. Understand how to find those different things, and before you go into the full circle. But we need that excitement, especially in the different like Telegram chats. Like the past like 3 months, and everybody's just like, ooh, it's just like, no, it's not good. It's not good in like environment. It's not good vibes. And like thinking that in my head, in my personal head, it's like, okay, guess what? We got probably a couple more months. So I'm just going to be just sitting here and just hanging out. It's like me, I haven't really been aping that many like tokens, like being a Degen, because I don't see any person or people out there that has the sensibility of building something proper. Actually there's one, but anyways,
you got a good point there that I want to touch on real quick though. It's the idea of excitement. I understand gambling is gambling, but at the same time, I think it's not terrible if people are doing the gambling and they understand that there's an entertainment value that's going into it, and that there is maybe possibly a sliver of a hope of hitting that like 100x meme coin or whatever. Is anyone going to hit it? Realistically, probably not. But the excitement is the purpose of it. I want to ask, I think that there's another thing that people might believe is kind of taking excitement out of the pulse chain system right now. And I think I want to ask you guys if you think this is a unique experience to pulse chain, or if this is pretty like standard operating procedure for most protocols, which is that it seems we've seen an increase in rug pulls, scams, and social engineered attacks on pulse chain. We in the green room, we obviously talked about we're all still trying to collect data on the 9 mil thing, so don't want to touch that one. But stuff like Pulse Latina, stuff like some of the Tangang stuff with that, it just kind of crashes. I'm not calling those scams per se, but just like loss of liquidity. And then it seems like there's kind of just a lack of trust. Do you think that's really sapping the excitement out, or is this pretty standard for crypto spaces?
Well, like I can kind of like relate. Like if you really think about this, like in the Ethereum community, you know, how many real good projects are there? Barely
100.
Yeah. So with that thought process in mind, like here on Pulse Chain, how many haystacks do we have? We don't really have that many haystacks, you know. The floor is kind of like glassed. There's PTGC and UFO and Teddy Bear, Atropa, SolidX, but like it's not like very dirty over here. But when somebody like, I'm going to relate the needle in the haystack of a rug, there is more of a percentage of possibility of something being a rug if there's not a lot of action actually happening on the chain. So that in that state of mind is like in the psychology, or it's like being like in that kind of like, yeah, frame of mind is like there's nothing else to look for. And then once you look for it, and hopefully people are smart about this and learn from their mistakes of looking at all the dynamics and who's building it and who's behind it and where's the liquidity, how much liquidity. And because I really feel like we're changing the game of crypto. And like what Zen's always been talking about, like product market fit, and and like really honing down on the liquidity webs and kind of like what's those liquidity webs built on. So like let's just give you, for example, if a project has like liquidity with Pulse, PulseX, Inc, P-Hex, E-Hex, and basically they're just like 5 runners. Let's throw PTGC in the mix, you know? Let's say all 6 of us, maybe UFO and Access and the good players. Let's just say a project like suddenly did something like this, okay? At the bottom of Pulse Chain, and they're building. And with that same kind of concept, what do you think do you think that's gonna have a positive impact? And they are like, oh crap, the liquidity web game. And if Pulse does a 10x and if Pulse X does a 10x, and then if they were benevolent with every single process that is capable of happening, it's like, there you go. But until that happens, until we have good developers, it's just like really, like literally, it's just like you throw $100 in at a 10K market cap token and you literally like G'd it at like 30K. That's what's been going on here on Pulse Chain. Like,
okay. So it sounds like your argument is that this is not a unique experience to Pulse Chain, but unfortunately it feels worse than the other experiences because there's just fewer projects. So when one does go sour or turns out to be a negative experience, it's amplified because there's less other things to compare it to.
well, like, okay, so like maybe I shouldn't say needle, because like the needle and the haystack are the actual projects that actually do that. Let's just say the rugs are all the haystacks right now, and it's all over the place. And we just need to come over here and just like start educating and teaching people how to actually find those good things that are going to have a good impact for Pulse Chain in general and for people, and not being a scumbag.
Well, we already know how to find them. RH already taught us this. It's just people are getting desperate and forgetting what we've learned for the last 5 years. Both Pulse Latina and 9mm were both part of the scam, was part of people giving custody up of their tokens.
The self-custody is the key.
Oh,
well,
yeah.
They gave up custody to smart contracts, and then the smart contract took all their money. If it was the smart contract getting hacked, or if it was an inside job, it really doesn't matter. It was just blatantly the fact that you gave up custody of your tokens. And we, as a Hex community, like, I'm sorry, we know better than doing that.
Fair enough. Fair enough. I wonder if we may have gotten a few wires crossed, because part of the whole Richard Hart promotion stuff was the outrage marketing. And then even in like the Highest of Stakes movie, he says things like, I use scam tactics to try to get people in on good investments. And if you get in the habit of trusting people who sound like me, then you are going to get scammed, except for this one, because it's a good one. That's one of those things that concerns me, because it's like, I understand where you're coming from, but I think there might be secondary effects that might be unintended. And what we're seeing now might be part of it. But I don't know. I could just be reading too much into this as well.
You trap the people who are scammable in a good thing. And then the ones who are going to run away anyways are the ones who end up leaving their money there. And the ones who learn how to not get scammed anymore are the ones that stay in the good asset. That's how I interpret that intention sort of thing. I could be wrong, you know. But the people who believe are the ones that stay and keep the price up. And the people who don't believe are the ones that exit. And then the people who believe get their money. Or get their tokens, whatever you want to call it.
That's true. All right, again, we are coming up on time here shortly, so I do want to pass the final question over to Nate McGettit. What you got, my man?
Yeah, it's not necessarily a question. I do have, well, maybe it's kind of like half a question. So
topic? Final topic.
yeah, final topic, right? So something I've been kind of thinking about a little bit is like how are we going to get adoption, right? And with hearing you guys talking about this, it's kind of like, okay, one of the things that I believe that we absolutely need to do is we need to focus on narratives. Okay, we need to focus on what narrative are we going to put out there for the world to see, not what pulse chain people are going to see, what people outside of pulse chain are going to see here, right? We need to focus on those narratives. If there's a narrative like we're the forever up city running around, okay, we can sit here and be like, well, it's not exactly forever up. We still need economic energy. We still need this. We still need that. We can sit there and we can kind of like, poke and prod at it and try and tear it apart and all that. However, think about what people who are not as educated as us, who are not as smart as us, are going to think. And this is retail, by the way. Okay, this is the majority of the money that we're trying to attract to the chain. Okay, these people are going to hear forever up. Why? Oh, because there's a buy and burn on Pulse X that literally buys your coins and then makes the price go up. There's an entire alien currency type of deal that has a web of different coins that helps make the price always go up. And when somebody sells, it doesn't sell as far down. It's like that type of thing, right? Try and just make it a narrative that people who don't truly understand this stuff are actually going to be like, hey, that's a place I want to go spend my money because it sounds like it's a good thing. This is ultimately what the cabal of the mainstream news really does. They don't specifically say, hey, a sniper took a position and then tried to assassinate somebody. They don't say that. They say, oh, this very important person was almost shot. That's all you need to hear. And people go, oh, what, really? And then that's all that's it. That's the only information they need. And that's how you get the information out there. What we need to do is we need to keep running with these narratives as much as possible. Hey, we're going to peg PDI to $1. It's going to peg. It is going to peg. Now, as much as we can sit here and argue with each other on Pulse Chain about whether that's actually going to happen or even possible, it doesn't matter. People out there, people outside of Pulse Chain just need to hear that. And they're like, oh, what's this? A stable coin that's going to be pumping up to the point where it hits $1 and then it's going to stay there. Wow, that sounds cool. I better get into that early, right? And then people start rushing in with all their money. Forever Up City, another one. What we absolutely need to do is we need to stop fighting with each other over this, the silly stuff. I love you, Fast Duel. But yeah, we just need to get this narrative out there. And I guess that's my PSA. Quite frankly, a lot of people are hurt right now. Green candles cures all. I get the feeling that maybe I'm just a little too ahead of the curve saying this, right? But as soon as the green candles really do start coming, as soon as what I believe is going to be Richard Hart forcing a bull run where suddenly there's a lot of green candles, then people start looking our direction, then people are going to be healed around in the community, are going to be healed enough to want to start running these narratives. And if I can encourage people to run these narratives more early, we can actually help more people before this type of thing actually happens. And then when it does happen, we're going to have more ears out there, or more voices out there, getting into more ears to be able to bring people in, so that way we can pump to the moon.
Fair enough. I'll pass it over to Coach in the gray. Do you guys have a narrative that you think is going to be the one to attract people into the chain?
Go ahead.
I have a hard time like telling people narratives that aren't like backed by math or mechanics and stuff like that. And I don't want to just be telling people whatever they want to hear, because I just really ethically don't believe in that. And it's really hard to create that narrative when we're forever down. You know what I mean? So like if anyone looks at our chart right now, like Hex, for example, it's like, you said what? Like that doesn't make any sense. So obviously we can't even run with that until something does happen. But personally, like how I try to tell people about PTGC and UFO is I just try to tell them the truth. Is, I spent a lot of time and energy trying to build something that I think can constantly go up against the blockchain itself over time. Obviously, there will be points where it goes up more and some points that it comes down, but gradually, mathematically and mechanically, it should just keep going up against the chain. So if you're an actual real investor, you can understand this product is going to be working for you for a long time. And I personally, I think there is a lot of investors out there. I believe there is also a lot of gamblers that just want to, a quick flip. And I think we'll get both of those people with green candles. But that kind of goes back to, I think if we had some green projects on this blockchain, it would help with the adoption. And then 100%, once the blockchain does start to go up and we have some greens, like if we want to tell people whatever we want to tell them, like everyone's going to kind of have their own opinion on what they want to say. My thing is like, I just like to be truthful when I'm onboarding people about it. I don't want to just tell them what they want to hear. And I know that's probably not the answer you wanted, but
it's your answer. It could be whatever you want, my friend. All right, Coach, what you got?
Well, the onboard people is the individuals that want to build good things and good products for the foundation of Pulse Chain in general. That's going to be one of the biggest things that are going to onboard people, especially in terms like the great. It's like Zen, he always talks very, very humble, but you get at least it's funny because our relationship is perfect because he has that kind of character, and then I do have that same kind of character, but at the same time I'm a little like, you never know what's going to happen with me. Very spontaneous, but like it's just going to be green candles. That's the thing. That's where the onboarding started back in July, February. Yeah, not July. No, January, February, and March. That was the biggest time where we had the most onboards coming in. It wasn't really during the time since March to the time where we're at now in September. But like green candles, like what is this Gray's currency? Like it's like somebody, never mind. But yeah, it's just going to be green candles. I was about to, never mind. We don't need the honey badger here.
Fair enough. All right. Tell you what, gentlemen, thank you so much for coming on with us. I want to give you guys final word. Want to give you an opportunity to shout out your stuff, let people know where they can find you. So, Coach, you want to take it away first?
Yeah, where you can find me I am Coach_4. I always forget my freaking username.
I got you. I'm dropping the link in the chats right now.
Perfect.
I'll try to help you out. I believe it is at Coach_X4.
Yeah, I forgot. I felt like there was another number on there. On YouTube, Coach X. If you look up Coach X Crypto, I go live Monday. I switched my schedule now, so Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, 6:30 Pacific time. And then I actually recently opened up a private group if you ever want to learn about anything about crypto and kind of like just go into my brain. And it's going to be a good time. I actually partnered with Crypto Kong, which has great information and data points and spreadsheets and kind of like balancer type of stuff. So that's that. If you ever want to look for information about that, that's at coachxcrypto.com. So thank you for having me, guys.
Oh, always a pleasure. All right, Mr. Gray 369, where can the folks find you at, and what do you got going on in the near future?
So you can follow me on Twitter, the Gray 369. Every Monday and Saturday, we do a space through Pulse TGC's Twitter, and all that space is pretty much talking about is PTC, UFO, and then Pulse Chain in general. So if anyone wants to ask any questions about PTGC and UFO in particular, hop in there and we're happy to explain. Or answer any questions you have. That's why we're there, is I just want to keep educating people on something I'm very passionate about and I've spent a lot of time working on, and I'm super excited that it's working as I planned here on this blockchain. And I'm excited to see where it goes in the future. I'm excited to see where Pulse Chain goes in the future, and just excited to be here with everyone.
Fantastic. Well, gentlemen, again, thank you so much for coming on. And with that, I'm going to toss it over to my excellent co-host and other panelists. So, Mr. Will Stevenson, where can the folks find you and what do you have going on?
The folks can find all of my socials at will.pls.fyi. That is my Pulse domain. So all of my Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Telegram, my link tree, it's all over there. So if you guys want to stalk me, that's the best way to do it. As far as things that are coming up in the near future, I'm going to be hosting the Degen Roundtable Book Club this Friday. We are covering Tiago Forte's book, How to Build Building a Second Brain, Building a Second Brain by Tiago Forte. That's what we are doing for the Degen Roundtable Book Club this Friday. I don't have any other specific announcements other than that. So yeah, I look forward to seeing everyone here on Friday. Mr. Nate McGettit, where can the folks find you and what do you have going on in the near future, my friend?
Well, a lot of fun, interesting things happening, but you can reach me and find me at The Ascending Man on X, right down there in the chat. Go ahead, give a click, give a follow on that one. I try to put out as much content as I possibly can. Man, if I wasn't so busy at work, I'd be putting out so much stuff, because like the news comes across my dashboard all the time about things that are just happening that are either like super bullish or super bearish, and I've always got an opinion on them. But it's kind of like, oh, I'm at work though, so you know that just tends to happen. Looking forward to the pump, right, so I can buy my time back. That'll be nice. Then I can give you guys even more value. Anyways, but with that also. You can also find me right there. Gotta get it right. Bam, right there. My ex is currently covering the scanner, but yes, if you hit that QR code right next to me, right directly under the Will Stevenson, you can go ahead and find us all in the Degen Roundtable community chat. And yeah, if you have any questions, like that's where you get a hold of us. There's a ton of helpful information in there. Like there's a lot of people like who, if they feel like maybe they're not making it, you know, the community, you know, they're kind of giving up on it. It's prices are down bad, their portfolio is down bad, and they just send out like, hey, I need a little bit of help, a little bit of encouragement, and bam, are right there for them all the time, 24/7. So if you're not in there, like, come on, man, what the hell? You got to get in there. There's also one more thing one more thing that I am going to be doing immediately after this call. In fact, I'm a little bit late for it right now, about 12 minutes late, but it's going to be right here in this Telegram call. I am going to be showing up to kind of look over a few projects that's going on with the Forge currently. I've been asked to go in there because of my ability to be able to look at complicated systems in projects and try and kind of get them to the point where the normal person is going to be able to, the normal non-math person, Grace, is going to be able to kind of look at it and see what's going on, you know? So as soon as we are done here, I'm going to be hopping right over there, having some really good conversations. And yeah, the Forge is a place where you get new projects that pop up all the time. It's a fantastic little incubator for projects that maybe are actually really needed on Pulse Chain, as well as these other ones that are just, you know, it's like fun stuff, you know, like maybe some games are being developed and all that. So go ahead, give it a look. But yeah, that's what I got going on. Zenith, take us out.
All right, we'll do. Before we do that, for the final time this evening, Will, good sir.
You guys already know it's time for motherfucking chat shoutouts, baby.
That's right. We love talking with you guys and want to make sure that we always acknowledge the good people in the chat. So, speaking of good people in the chats, we got Sandy Beach up in here saying hello with the classic emoji there. She says, hey there, just checking in to say hi. Well, glad you stopped by. Hello to you as well. Back to Fast Abdul. He says, came for the memes, stay for the DeFi. That's true, good sir. That's very true. Up next, we got Frank White. Good to see you, my man. Bang Bang Pulse Gang. That is how we do it around these parts, yeah. Up next, we got Bingo. Says, benevolent. Well, I'm going to have to look at the
Beneficial
spelling on that one. I thought it was benevolent,
and
but I don't know.
benevolent.
Beloved?
Benevolent and beneficial. It's all in one.
That's
Oh,
true.
okay.
This could
I
be
thought it was
this
like
could
love.
be going over my head, and I will fully admit that. But regardless, we'll do the research on the back end. Up next, we got Ivan Ramirez. He says PTGC, Trump, and DRT are my top 3 pulse chain alts. 10,000 X territory.
Oh,
You
you
know,
better believe it.
I'm gonna agree with you on maybe 2 out of those 3. That third one, though, no, don't please, good people, don't touch the DRT token. It is purely for testing purposes and for proof of concept. Do not put legitimate money into that token.
It has already done its 10,000x, and it's come down since then from launch. So
there you go.
Which we did live on the air with Crypto Sloth. So shout out to Sloth for doing that. What was that you were saying, Nate?
Oh, I was like, but there's 10x more to go.
Oh fuck, who knows, man? I not financial advice, guys, but it's literally just a fucking shit coin. So like, it doesn't do anything. It has this cool logo right here, which I think I paid fucking I paid Deck Screener like $300 to say, hey, can you make this the logo of that ticker there? And they're like, yeah, sure. And that's literally all there is to it. It's like pulp chain or whatever.
Jeez, one of the most expensive experiments we ever ran.
Yeah,
okay.
It was a silly one.
True.
You got to admit, though, it was fun.
It was fun. It was also funny on a Whiskey Wednesday when I think Donnie came in here and like pumped $150 into it and like 2x the price in 5 minutes or something.
Yep.
And I was like,
yep, it was a good time.
If anything, that should be an indicator this is not a serious thing.
Mm-hmm.
All right, final chat of the evening. None other than Paul Sachs. He says, 1, find Will's socials. 2, track him down.
Do it. I
Paul
dare
Sachs
you.
is a man with many skills. He will find you. Maybe, I don't know.
I dare
There's
you
many
to track me
skills.
down.
Some of them are farming related. So shout out to our boy working hard in the fields.
If you guys
All
can
right.
track me down, I'll tell you this. I will make this promise live on the air. If you guys can track me down, I will buy you pizza and beer. But good luck.
Oh, I'm on my
There you
way.
go. There you go.
I don't know if that's a promise you want to make, but it's your
That's
choice,
a promise.
man.
That's a promise.
Alrighty,
They have to
folks.
find me though, not me find them.
There you
This
go.
would be like
That's
the
that's
hunter
the
and the
bit.
hunted.
For sure. All right, folks. Thank you so much for spending your time with us this evening. I have been your host, Zenith. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at ZenithDI. Other than that, we do want to let you guys know that we understand time is your most valuable asset. So anytime you spend it on stream with us, we want to make sure we thank you. So thank you from the bottom of our hearts. And until we catch everyone next time, I hope that everyone out there continues to degen responsibly.